All right, thank you for tuning in again for Cherished Moments. We are talking about grace and motherhood and how grace shows up in motherhood for you. So next to me, I have Miss Deanda Brown, come on, Deanda Brown, and she is, I guess when I first met her, the first thing I noticed about her is her ability to maintain patience. She, at that time, she was a teacher, but now she's assistant principal of elementary school. I still just think she has this supernatural level of patience and just the way that she communicates and just interacts with children and adults alike is just very even keel. That's her baseline. So if ever she's raising her voice, we know something's the matter. Somebody call Kevin because something ain't right. How are you, Deanda?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me here.
No problem. So would you please tell us about your family?
Yes. So I have been married for 11 years. No, almost 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
In June it will be 11 years. And I have one son with my husband, and that's my family.
That's your family. So I find that you are very creative. You operate in creative spaces, some of the content you post, and then can you tell me about that? Like how did you tap into that?
So I do enjoy doing creative things and just making things.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoy crafting. I've learned photography. I back in 2017 started a YouTube channel,
Oh, wow.
so making videos and editing, and I do hand lettering. So anything that is creative or making something, I enjoy writing. I enjoy that.
You enjoy it. Okay, so let's dig in on the topic of grace and motherhood. So can you tell me about your journey to motherhood? What was that like for you?
So I didn't. Sometimes, like, you hear stories of women who say, ever since I was 5 years old, I always wanted to be a mother, and like it's my life's dream. That's not really my story. But when I was married, I did want to become a mom. So when I was pregnant, I had my son. It was a very happy time.
Nice.
And it was, even though it was a joy to be a mother, it was a learning experience, and it still is a learning experience. So I'm finding that throughout every new stage, as my son grows, he's 7 now, I'm learning new things.
New things. So what? So when you were faced with like maybe new behaviors or new stages of each age, how did you manage that?
One thing that I have to lean on, like in every stage, is prayer, because my husband always tells me, like, well, this is new to him. He's never been here before. It's new to me. Like, I've never been a mom before. So just like he's learning and figuring out, what's going on in his world, I'm learning and figuring out how to navigate as a mother.
Nice. So how would you describe your parenting style? Because I just believe you are so patient, and I mean, I love this show called The Parent Test. And I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's fantastic. And it goes through all of these different parenting styles, like authoritative or helicopter, or I can't think of the other ones. But how would you describe your parenting style, and how would you describe your motherhood?
I would say that my parenting style is maybe authoritative, but also fluid. So my style has changed, and just depending on what season I'm in and how much I've learned, it has been different. So when my son was much younger, like maybe 2, 3 years old, that was kind of a rough period for me, and my husband as well. And we kind of looked at each other like, oh my gosh, this is rough. What are we doing? How do we, get his behavior on track? But we figure things out as we go along, and then there's sometimes as a parent, like, where you're just tired, and you're at work where I have been tired as a mom, like, you work at work all day, and I work with children, so it's like I come home, I just want to sit down and not have to do anything. But my child is still there, and he still needs to be parented, and there's been times where I had seen him doing certain things that I should have corrected, and just because I was tired, I didn't. And looking back in retrospect, thank you. I can see where there were times where I should have stepped in and, you know, corrected behaviors and done certain things that maybe I didn't at the time. And so now I try to be more diligent in correcting those things.
And is it like a hard correction? Are you able to communicate just like, hey, you know, this is what we need to do. This is like, what does that look like for you?
So I will communicate like what needs to happen, and sometimes, unfortunately, it doesn't always happen the way that I would like it to. On the first times, I have to communicate several times, and then there's discipline sometimes. And I would like to say that like I'm always, you know, super calm and cool, and I'm very patient until I'm not.
Until you're not.
And so sometimes I worry sometimes that like I don't want to break his spirit or like be mean or too harsh to him, and sometimes he'll communicate like, "Mommy, like that my heart is broken. That was so, you know, you were being mean to me," or you know, something like that. And so I don't want to do that, but I do my best to communicate like what the expectation is and why he needs to meet the expectations.
I understand that balance. Even now that I have teenagers, you know, though I believe at this stage they've developed a perspective of the world, you know, I still believe we can hurt them, you know, with our words or whatever. And I will tell you now that teenagers are a whole nother breed of just, it's a whole nother phase. I often want to go back to 7 years old. But I understand that because we don't want, well, one thing that I've said is I don't want kids to look back, my kids to look back and say that this is what caused them a scar and it was because of me, you know. And so I wonder if that's something that we'd even be able to manage or prevent, because we could come from a very good place, right? We could be coming from grace, coming from love, all of those things, but I guess how they receive it sometimes may just be in a way that, you know, was out of our control. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I do agree with that because, you know, I have had the same thought of like, I don't want to be the reason why, you know, my child has to end up going to therapy, you know, when they're older or when he's older. And I don't want to scar him, and I don't want to say anything that's going to cut him deeply because, you know, when it comes to words, when you say something, it can affect a person very deeply and you can't take it back. And, you know, what's been said, like my child can't ever unhear it.
Right.
So I do want to be careful with my words and like use my words to speak life and to build my child up. And I have to remember sometimes that, you know, when there's certain things that I'm trying to work on with him or certain things that I want him to understand or, you know, certain changes that I want to see in him, I have to be diligent in praying for him, but then also diligent in just doing what I feel like is best to help get him to where he needs to be, while understanding that it doesn't always, change doesn't always happen overnight.
Right,
and so
that's
if
so
I
good.
continue to like put the, or plant the right seeds, I guess if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just knowing eventually.
You'll see the fruit.
Yes.
There's a Bible verse that says that chastisement in the moment, you know, it doesn't feel good, but if you yield by it, you know, it produces the peaceable fruit of righteousness. And so that's what I'm always reminded of when I am correcting my children. That's what I'm reminded of when it hurts me to tell them no because of a choice they made. It's rare that I get satisfaction out of, you know, now that they're at this age, teenager, you know, taking phones, no, you can't go here, you know, and just to see the disappointment or just how upset they are, you know, it does kind of sting as a parent, but I have to remind myself. So are there any reminders, any Bible verses that you stand on to kind of help you in those moments or similar moments as well?
I think that what you said is a good one because it's something that even as a child, like you hear your parents say something like, this is going to hurt me more than it hurts you, or, you know, something to that effect. And you, as a child, you don't really understand that. But now as a parent, I can see how it's like, oh, I really, I want him to have this fun weekend. I want him to have these good experiences. But out of love,
Right. That's so good. Yeah.
I have to do what's best, even though that he doesn't see it as what's best, or he might feel like he's heartbroken, or he might react in a way where he feels like, why is my mom doing this? Why is she being mean? It's not, and I think that if we can be consistent in doing what's right, for our children, that eventually they'll see, there's a method to it.
Right.
Along.
I love that you said that it's love. So they may not always grasp that that's what that is, because kids and some adults, it's the here and now, it's what I want in this immediate moment, and to not have what I'm asking for means that you don't like me, and so we always have to keep the bigger picture in mind. So just a quick question. So have you ever found that you bring your teacherhood in home with your motherhood?
I have, and I can see, like when I'm teaching or with students, like I'll call them sweetie a lot. And then if I'm like, I don't usually use that term for my son, but like if I'm doing homework or something like that with him, like I'll hear it come out and I'm like, okay, get out of teacher mode because, you need to be mom now. But there are things that I've learned as a teacher that have helped me, I think, in parenting, but then also once I became a parent, it changed me as an educator to understand and realize, like, when parents send their children to you, like they're sending their most prized possession, they're sending their promise from God, and they want the world, they want the best for their children, and I feel like it just helped me to become a better teacher after I became a parent.
That's awesome. And it was really the reverse for me. I was a paraprofessional and I did a little ESD, so it helped. I don't know if I guess it made me more, I won't say fearful, but I was determined, like, we are not going to have these problems. So you need to learn how to read by 3, so it showed up reverse for me. But I thank you so much for being here, talking about, your family, how discipline shows up, how we do have those fears of not wanting to scar our children. But I think where grace shows up is if we are sensitive to Holy Spirit, He will lead us in the right way, and our children will be just fine.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.